David Garcia. David Garcia. Jacob Perez.
Here.
Delma Salinas.
Here.
And Joseph Reese here. Let the record show that there is a quorum of board members present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551, State of Texas Open Meetings Act. The Kingsville ISD Board of Trustees will conduct a public hearing to discuss the following. Item A, overview of school financial integrity rating system of Texas. For first, Dr. Peter Fitz.
Thank you, President Ruiz, Dr. Martinez, members of the board. As required every year, we need to have a public hearing to discuss the financial state of the district. It is called the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. The reason why it's a lagging indicator is because it needs to include the audit for the previous year. So all school districts at this time are conducting their public hearings for the 23-24 data because the audits for those years are complete. Once the audits are complete, then they are sent to TEA. Then TEA examines the audits to see if we are in compliance with financial practices and also looks at things such as our fund balance and assets and liabilities to see where we stand. So financial practices at the end of the 2023-2024 school year. So first is an acronym. It stands for the Financial Integrity Rating System of Texas. And again, this basically examines not only the financial health of our school district, but also the financial practices of our school district. School districts get 1 of 4 ratings. There is no D rating. A for superior achievement, that's what we want. And that is what we received this last year, 94 out of 100. And we have received several high first ratings. We've talked about how last year we had a 92, but we've talked about that it does also look at the financial health of our district, which is going to be hard to maintain an A in future years. So the first 4 indicators do not get a score. They are simply pass or fail. And the first one is, did we file it in time? There are deadlines of when we need to file the audit or the annual financial report with TEA, and we did file it on time. Was there an unmodified opinion? That means that did the auditor find that all of our accounting practices were sound? If they were not sound, he would have a modified opinion. He would change some of the things that we said that were in our financial statements, but unmodified is a good thing. Was the school district in compliance with the payment of all debts at the fiscal year's end? And yes, we were. And number 4, the 4th indicator has 3 specific governmental agencies, and then it does have some minor governmental agencies. Did we make payments in time to TRS, IRS, Texas Workforce Commission? We were in compliance with all of those deadlines. Indicator 5, total net position. So total net position has assets and liabilities. All of our assets in the district include all the buildings, all the vehicles, everything that we could sell right now if we wanted to. And liabilities, they're anything from what is owed to employees for salaries or what is owed for the pension liability. Right now, if we sold everything that we had in the district and we had to pay everything off in the district, including all of our bonds, we would still have $35 million left over. So our net position is greater than 0. This is just a pass or fail option. Number 6, 3-year average change in fund balance. So our 3-year average in fund balance is actually 9.83%, because when we were getting the ESSER funds every year, our fund balance was increasing. We had a positive increase, and last year was the first year that we started to go back down again, because we didn't have the ESSER funds. But because it's a 3-year average, we are fine, and as long as you don't have a 25% decrease in 3 years, then you're also fine. You can also pass this indicator by having at least 75 days of operating expenses, and we do currently have in our fund balance 122.89 days of operating expenses. Again, just a pass-fail indicator. Cash on hand, first indicator where you actually get points on it. And all the points that you can possibly get add up to 100. So are the number of days of cash on hand greater than the threshold? Then we need at least greater than or equal to 90 days. And we definitely do have higher than that. That is 114.94 days. That's going to be one that is going to be harder to maintain and get a perfect 10 as the amount of cash that we have in the bank decreases. Current assets to current liabilities. So current assets are what we have, anything that's liquid, our cash in the bank and anything else that we have that we can readily convert to cash. And current liabilities, that's basically our debt payment for the year. And this is actually the first year that we have received a 10 on this rating. And the main reason why is because basically our liabilities are decreasing every year. We have done a good job about doing defeasances to get our debt payments down. General fund analysis. So there are two ways to pass this indicator. First of all, if your revenues are greater than expenditures, you automatically pass this indicator. Unfortunately, our revenues were not greater than expenditures, negative $2.9 million. And again, we had a decrease in fund balance a little bit more than this, but that's because there's transfers from one fund to another. This indicator doesn't look at transfers between funds. It only looks at our expenditures and our revenues in the general fund. We didn't pass that part of the indicator, but the other way you can pass this indicator is by having cash on hand of at least 60 days, and we had almost double that. So we passed this indicator with 10 total points. Okay, long-term liabilities to total assets. Again, another one that we got 10 points and we haven't in the past. One of the reasons on this again is that the amount of liabilities that we have, the $44 million, has come down. We had over $70 million of debt 5-6 years ago, and we have really worked hard through defeasance to get that number down so that we only have $44 million of debt. And our assets have basically, they've decreased a little bit as far as depreciation, but we have also purchased new assets such as school buses as well too. The amount of liabilities has gone down, assets has been fairly constant. So because of that, we receive 10 points now on this indicator. Debt ratio. Again, another one where we receive 10 points, where in the past we haven't always received 10 points. 2 reasons for this. Number 1 is that our debt has gone down, that we've talked about. And number 2, the amount of assessed property value has gone up. In the last several years, property values in the district have increased fairly significantly. So because of that, we have a much lower ratio than we have before, and we have 10 points on this indicator. Administrative cost ratio. So this is where we lost a lot of points, and the biggest reason for this is because of the ESSER grant. The ESSER grant has a requirement that you have to spend a certain percentage of your grant on learning loss. So because of that, we put a lot of our instructional expenditures in the grant. In order to get the money from the grant, you were required to have a lot of instructional expenditures in that. When you do that, you move some of your instructional expenditures from the general fund, and the general fund doesn't necessarily, the ESSER grant they don't cover a lot of administrative costs. There is no requirement that you have to have administrative costs in there. That's the biggest reason this cost ratio will be higher this next year, because we won't have a lot of instructional expenditures in the ESSER grant. Student to staff ratio. So this looks at, as you decrease the number of students, are you also decreasing the number of staff? Because that is a key metric of, are you going to be able to balance the budget? Because they pay you by not only the number of students that are in the district, but they pay you if they come to school. So if you have less students in the district, you need to have less staff in the district. We did pass this indicator. It is a three-year average. At the same time, though, our ratios, we're still working to right-size the district to get to healthy ratios. Average daily attendance projections. So we are required to 2 years in advance submit what we predict will be our ADA projections to TEA ahead of time. And then if we are not within 20%, then we get docked. It's either all or nothing. The 5 points, you either get it or you don't. We have, for the last, again, it's 2 years, we have projected our margin of error was 3.99%. And I will say that we projected over what it would be. Our ADA was lower than what was projected by 3.99%, but again, well within the margin of error of 20% that you have to be in order to get all 5 points on this indicator. PEIMS data. So PEIMS data has several components of PEIMS data. It has staff data, it has student data, and it also has financial data. And we are required to have alignment within 3% of what data is submitted to PEIMS for finance and what data is submitted in our finance system and in our audit. That needs to be in alignment with no more than 3% variance. In this case, we were within $41 of $31,632,033, and that comes out to about 0.005 or 6 zeros before you get to a 1 or a 2 on the percent. So very close in the accuracy alignment of our financial data in the financial system and audit with PEIMS. Last one is indicator 17 is a pass-fail. Internal controls, he just looks at, our auditor looks at our practices and he reports on this, and we pass the ceiling. Material compliance with the annual financial report basically looks, are we following all the particular laws, and are we following all of the program guidelines for the grants, the contracts that we have, and the auditor found that we were in compliance. Financial postings are certain things we need to post. For instance, we need to post this meeting, we need to post about our audit. There's different things during the year that we need to post for finance, and we were in compliance with that. Did we talk about our property values? This is a discussion that we usually have the month or two before passing our budget for the year. We are required to have this discussion within 120 days or 4 months of adopting the budget. And finally, this last indicator, if you are not able to pay your debts and ask for financial hardship, then you would get penalized for this indicator, but that wasn't the case with us. So we are required as part of this annual financial report to report the last 2 years of financial information. I will just quickly touch on the second year. Last year, we had a 92 out of 100 score. And again, this is last year's rating, but it is 23-24 rating, but it is based on 22-23 financial data. We filed it on time. The auditor had an unmodified opinion. We paid all our debts on time. We paid the governmental entities such as TRS, PwC, and IRS on time. Our net position, our assets to liabilities was greater than 0. Change in fund balance, we passed that our fund balance again, our fund balance at that time was increasing, so definitely there wasn't a huge decrease in fund balance. Cash on hand, we passed. Number 10, current assets to current liabilities. That's one that we didn't get 10 points last year. We did get 10 points this year. Revenues versus expenditures or cash on hand. At that time, our revenues were greater than our expenditures at that time. Budgeted versus actual was not scored. There was a time where, ever since COVID happened, they suspended budget indicator number 10. The main reason why is because it's very hard that when you budgeted ahead of time that your actual would actually match, because there were so many variables with COVID. Even though COVID has been ended for several times, they suspended that indicator until this year. Long-term liabilities to total assets, we had 10 points. Debt to property ratio, this is another one that we got 10 points this year. The biggest reason, again, is our debt's going down and our property values going up. Indicator 13, again, we struggled. That's where we have a lot of our instructional expenditures in ESSER still. Student to staff ratio, we passed that indicator. Remember, that's a 3-year average as far as did it not decrease by a certain percentage. Average daily attendance was not scored at that time, again, because during COVID, you had to project 2 years ahead of time, much harder to predict. Our PEMS versus financial, we were also very close. No material weaknesses, in compliance with grants, contracts, and laws. We posted everything. We talked about our property values, and we did not have a financial hardship. So that was the previous year. Also, as part of this report, we are required to include a copy of the current superintendent's contract in a packet. August 18th, 2025 was the date it was signed. And we are required to report board and superintendent travel. So board and superintendent travel is during the year that is in question, which was September 2023 to August of 2024. And if you notice on there, we do have 2 board members for place number 6. At that particular year, there was a board election in May of 2024. So the first person there in place 6 served until May of 2024. The second person served from May of 2024 to August of 2024. That's why we have 2 different place 6 board members on there. We are required to present in these specific categories on there. Most of that other is registration for different conferences. They don't have registration of a specific category. They do say that we need to have other as a specific category. So you see how much was spent by each category. Total amount of board and superintendent travel for that year, September 23 to August 24, was just over $34,000. We are required to disclose any outside compensation for, or consulting for the superintendent during that time period, who is Dr. Cecilia Reynolds Pettis. And again, I did reach out and make sure that I got all of this information, a statement from the superintendent and all board members for this time period. Same thing, I did get a response from every single board member and the superintendent on any gifts received. Any gifts received is defined as anything in aggregate over $250 in the year. So if the board member or superintendent receives something less than $250 total during the year, they would not be required to disclose it. Same thing, any business transactions with the district and the superintendent, everybody responded in the negative. That is the end of my presentation. Any questions?
Any questions on the board? Do we have any comments from the public?
Oh, no, sir.
Okay, well, hearing no comments, I do hereby adjourn this meeting at 5:21 p.m. 2025. I call this regular meeting of the Kingsville Independent School District to order. We will have roll call. Joe Mireles. Here. Brian Kufal. Here. Martin Chapa. David Garcia. Here. Jacob Perez. Here. Delma Salinas.
Here.
And Joseph Ruiz here. Let the record show that there is a quorum of board members present and that this meeting has been posted in accordance with Government Code Chapter 551, State of Texas Open Meetings Act. We move to a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the Texas Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We now move on to item number 4, public participation. Do we have anyone that wishes to address the board?
Yes, sir, we have a Myra Sandoval from HMK, topic UIL inconsistency. And then we have a Monica Esquivel from HMK as a parent.
Thank you. Who would like to go?
Testing.
Good evening. My name is Myra Sandoval, and I'm here tonight as a mother who once trusted this district's processes and who believed that when concerns were raised, leadership would act with clarity, fairness, and consistency. But that trust has since been broken. I want to bring to your attention a UIL concern that occurred this fall at HMK. On September 18th, UIL eligibility officially closed district-wide. This rule is not new. Anyone working at this school district knows it, or they should know it. On September 22nd, my daughter, myself, and other dancers were told that they were ineligible. At practice that afternoon, their coach informed them that they had until September 25th at 4 p.m. to raise their grades to regain eligibility. So they followed and worked towards those instructions. They trusted that information. On September 25th, my daughter and other teammates brought their grades up exactly as they were told. But later that same day, administration stated to us that the information we had been told was just wrong, and no matter what they had done, they would remain ineligible until October the 16th. After I met with admin that day, I spoke directly with the drill team coach to understand why the students had been told that they could still raise their grades by that date. She showed me correspondence on her personal cell phone, explaining that she had relied on that written communication when she instructed the students. Let me be clear, if the rules had been applied consistently from the beginning, we could have accepted that, but they were not. While my daughter and her teammates sat out, other ineligible students in other programs continued participating without restriction. No one can explain that, no one has explained that, and your silence is not an explanation. Weeks later, a parent reached out to me. She had come across and obtained a copy of the time-stamped September 5th email from administration stating that grade change forms were due at the end of the day due to eligibility. And she forwarded this email to me confirming that this was not hearsay, not confusion, and not miscommunication. It was a district-originated guidance acted upon by staff that contradicted what administration claimed. That is the exact same day students were told by their coach that they could still become eligible. And that was 7 days after the UIL district cutoff. This is not speculation or rumor. This was a written communication from a district employee. If those grade changes were tied to eligibility, like the email stated, this is a serious issue. If they were not, then the district should have clarified that immediately, but you haven't. I met with administration on October 29th. I was told that it could have been a technical issue with the system migration due to the new PowerSchool system. I was advised to file a formal complaint, so I did, and I submitted the evidence. Last week, I received this district's conclusion, and not one single concern I raised was addressed. Not the September 25th email, not the conflicting instructions or inconsistent enforcement, and not the timeline discrepancies. Just a blanket statement, no irregularities found, case closed. So I requested clarification, and since then, I have yet to hear back. Our children are not naive. They see when the rules shift depending on the program. They see when adults contradict each other. They see when parents ask questions and the district falls silent. Every morning they wake up before the sun rises. They come home after dark. They spend 10 to 12 hours in your care, more time than they spend at home with our family. We entrust you with their education, their emotional well-being, their safety, and the values that they absorb. So when the adults in charge model inconsistency, lack of transparency, and selective enforcement, you are teaching them that integrity is optional. That accountability depends on who you are or who you know. The system bends for some and breaks for others. That is not leadership or education. How can we teach core values that help our children thrive and flourish when the leadership they spend most of the day with is modeling the opposite? It's counterproductive, harmful, and undermines everything that we are working to instill at home. And now I need to place something firmly on the record. On December 7th, I filed a formal Texas Public Information Act request seeking the district's own records, including team rosters before and after eligibility determinations, UIL certification forms, administrative communications, written eligibility procedures, participation logs, and any UIL complaints submitted by parents this year. This request is lawful, evidence-based, and directly tied to inconsistencies your staff has communicated to parents. I am not requesting this information because KISD can't provide answers. I'm requesting it because you won't. And when a parent is forced to file a legal request to get straight answers about their own child's education, it's not a communication problem, it's a transparency problem. I'm not doing this because I want to fight. I'm doing this because every time we raise concerns, we are met with silence, dismissals, case closed responses that ignore the facts in front of us. This is not accountability, this is avoidance. And avoidance does not build trust, it destroys it. If KISD believes its processes were correct, then proving it should be simple. Prove it. If the district cannot provide answers internally, then external oversight becomes necessary. I brought printed copies of every email, every timestamp, every documented discrepancy. I will provide them to any board member who requests them. I'm not here to attack the district. Okay.
Please finish your thought.
Okay.
You may finish your thought, but that is your time.
Thank you. And if anybody wants, you would like to?
Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Sandoval.
Thank you.
Just give it.
Good evening. I'm not here just as a parent, but someone who has watched children lose their sense of safety, confidence, and trust in a program that was supposed to build support. Our children, your students, have been singling and they have now and there is something wrong. Their voices have gone unheard and silence have been made to keep safe. Speaking up is my only option. One of the first concerns that was brought to my attention was a student who was questioned about the classroom interaction and the way that it left them feeling intimidated, dismissed, and blamed. They walked away believing that their feelings did not matter. That our focus had shifted onto them and that their safety was not a priority. No child should ever feel unsafe or their voice unheard. This is not leadership, and fear has no place in our school. On a school trip, students were moved to a different bus without any parent notification, including students with medical needs. One of those students experienced a medical episode, and the sponsor is unaware if the students had any condition. As a parent, realizing you don't know where your children is or who is responsible for them is terrifying. This wasn't an oversight. This was a broken down and a basic safety procedure that put children at risk. During that same trip, I personally witnessed, along with the entire coaching staff, emotional outbursts from the sponsor, crying, raising voices, visibly distressed, and in front of minors who were looking to seek answers and for an adult who could stay steady and in control. Students sat silently on the bus for nearly an hour. Some looked scared and others were embarrassed, while children whispered, "Is everything okay? What's happening? Something's deeply wrong." This is the moment that affected me the most as a mother. The sponsor scheduled a mandatory morning practice, but did not notify administration or obtain proper approval requested under the UIL and district guidelines. When my daughter arrived prepared to split her time with her already scheduled cheer practice, she was confronted and publicly questioned about her choice. A simple phone alarm led to raised voices pressure and humiliation in front of her peers. She left the gym in tears and sought help from another coach because she no longer felt safe. No child should ever be made to feel attacked or tried to have or have the responsibility of balancing two school commitments. Later, I asked for an explanation, but I was only met with multiple conflicting responses. If an adult cannot communicate clearly each other, how can they guide our children? Throughout the year, students repeatedly shared concerns about being taken to practice in unsafe areas, being asked to perform in ways that made them feel uncomfortable, being publicly called out or criticized, feeling discouraged rather than supported. Extracurricular activity programs are to help children grow. Instead, they're walking away feeling embarrassed, confused, and afraid to speak up. If this is not an isolated incident, and if it was, I wouldn't be here, but rather a pattern. Activities happen without proper approval, last-minute changes that disrupt families, explanations that shift. Children are afraid to speak up. Parents are afraid to speak up as well. Ignoring these patterns is how children can get hurt. I was also made aware of private student information by the sponsor, including I should have never been told, including student grades and details, CPS-related situation, and UIL grade changes due to eligibility. No parents should have had access to that, but no employee should share it. But there is one thing. I'm a parent. She was an employee of KISD, entrusted with our students' safety, privacy, and emotional well-being. What I witnessed did not reflect professionalism. It blurred boundaries, created division, and caused emotional harm to our students who had no control over their information being shared. Administration asked me not to speak while the investigation was going on, and I honored that. But during that time, a narrative was formed that was not accurate. Meanwhile, children and parents were left in the dark. Silence did not protect children. Transparency does. I'm asking the board these three things. Take these concerns seriously. Our children are telling us that they're not safe. Look at the patterns, not just individual incidents. There have been over 35 complaints, including meetings that have occurred. Anyone supervising minors must show emotional stability, consistency, and professionalism. Ensure that individuals with close professional contact into the situation recuse themselves. This aligns with TEA guidelines and protects the integrity it protects the integrity. This is not about your job, but this is about the children. I did not come here out of anger, but I'm here because I believe in our children. I believe in their tears. I believe in their discomfort. I believe in their quiet voices when they whisper, I don't feel safe. When a child says they are uncomfortable, we have the responsibility to listen. Programs don't make students make programs, and our students deserve a program built on safety, compassion, leadership, and stability, not fear, confusion, and inconsistency. I have offered alternative solutions to ensure the drill team programs.
Thank you, Ms. Esquivel. We now move on to item number 5.
Can I speak? I haven't signed up. Do you mind if I take one?
Okay.
Elizabeth Ramos. Good afternoon, Superintendent, board members. What these ladies said has been a concern for many, many years, probably prior to me getting here. But I know you've always talked about having committees, and I think that would be definitely one to form for you guys. Committee on booster clubs and PTOs, a committee for sports and athletics, a committee for CTE, so that there is some kind of baseline for how people's roles are supposed to be played and how, you're supposed to act, what kids are supposed to do, and get that information out to the public so that there is no confusion, that everyone is aware of what their responsibilities are. It doesn't take much to make a committee. I mean, I'll nominate myself. You got one, finally 5 others. But with all this, it'd be a good idea to finally get some committees going. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ramos. We now move on to item number 5, communication from administration. Item 5A, superintendent update, Dr. Luz Martinez.
Good evening, Board President, board members, and members of the public and the KISD staff. We're really excited about launching the school improvement plan, and we want to make sure that we have transparency and communication with all stakeholders. And so for this purpose, we are going to be starting a series of information forums, which begin next Wednesday, the 17th, 5:30 to 6:30 here in the boardroom. And we invite all the community and staff members who would like to come to hear more about the proposed plan that we have for the consolidation of the elementary schools, as well as some of the TEA grant funding that we have applied for, which you will also get a presentation today on that as well. We want to make sure we hear from the community and that we take all concerns into consideration before we present the plan for final approval to the board, which we plan to do in the beginning of February timeframe. We are going to be posting all of these scheduled meetings and events through different organizations in the community, as well as coming to each of the campuses and inviting everyone who would like their voices to be heard. Again, we want to make sure we are as transparent as possible and that we listen to all the voices in the community so we can make a well-informed decision as well. Today, we continue with the STAR testing EOC at the high school. On Wednesday of last week, we tested about 104 students for English 1. Thursday, the 4th, we tested about 108 students for Algebra 1. On Monday, yesterday, unfortunately, we have to suspend testing because, as you are aware, we had no electricity in some of our areas to include Harold Elementary, the central office right here, as well as the bus depot. Unfortunately, when we lose electricity because the mainframe is here at central office, internet connectivity is impacted, so we did not have internet at any of our campuses. Therefore, we have to pause testing for that day, but we continue today, and today we tested for English 2, 79 students, for U.S. History, 25 students, and for Biology, 24 students. We are going to continue makeup testing Wednesday through Friday for about 58 remaining students that are retesting for EOC. I want to thank Ms. Williams, Mr. Cooper, Ms. Moore, and all the high school administration for their resiliency and preparation and planning in administering this test, as well as CARE and DAP faculty and administration. Thank you so much for your efforts in ensuring our students are successful in this testing. Just to end, I would like to remind everyone that as we are preparing to close first semester in about a week, we still have a lot of work to do. We have to stay focused on instruction, and we don't have any time to waste. So our expectations is that instruction continues in every classroom every day as we prepare to celebrate the holidays. Happy holidays to everyone. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time with your families and friends. And remember that all school district offices and schools will remain closed until January the 5th. That is when our teachers return for school level PD. And then Tuesday the 6th, they have a work day. Students return to school on Wednesday, January 7th. That's when we want all students back, Wednesday, January 7th. That is all for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Martinez, for your questions.
Yes, Dr. Martinez probably asks this every single time, and I apologize. The tests that are taking place now are for students who have taken the test before but have not successfully passed the test. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And these tests are required for graduation.
That's correct.
Okay.
So at the high school level, they have to pass 5 tests currently. English 1, English 2, Algebra 1, U.S. History, and Biology. And so students have to continue to take this test until they pass them. If they do not pass them by the time they are in their senior year, they have the opportunity to complete a plan that is mandated by the state. And upon successful completion of that plan, they can be exempted to up to 2 of the EOC test.
So this test will be administered again, this year, most likely in the spring.
Yes, so in April, we have the official first-time testers as well as the makeup testing for those who have not passed the test as well.
Students that are required, that don't pass up to 2, to go to the committees, are we keeping detailed documentation on what a tutor they're going to, all the extra help that they're getting to present to the committees?
I would like the high school principal to come to the podium and address that, please. And Ms. Williams, I think you wanted to say something, so please come to the podium.
Yes, sir. So we have our binders from last school year, and the students at the very last moment, if they don't pass, then we do have all of the IGC meetings that we need to have. Each department, we present the English, the math, the science, and social studies. We went through CNI last year before we approved the materials that they had to complete. And then we have their binders with all of their information that they have to turn in and have a parent meeting so their parents come sit down with us too. Yes, sir.
And Mr. Kufo, I just wanted to provide some clarification. The majority of our students who are taking these tests are retesters. There are a few exemptions to the rule in reference to U.S. history. Those students who are in those dual credit courses that receive credit for 1302 are eligible to take the test in December as a first-time tester. So those are the only students who are the exemption to that rule. The other ones are retesters, or if for any reason we have students who have transferred into the district from another district who does semester-based courses, then we can test them as first-time testers in December as well.
What are the results of this test? No.
February. About end of January, early February. I have the exact date on the calendar of events. I can get that date to you. Yes.
I think we get the preliminary results in January, towards the end of January, and then the official cleaned up, as they say, report comes early February. Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Williams, on the students that we're going after every student that qualifies to take it in order to give them an opportunity. I mean, whether they went to tutoring or didn't go to tutoring.
That is correct. That is correct. We have a tracker for each cohort of students, and if they were unsuccessful and they qualify for retesting, we are testing them. We are not giving them the option to opt out.
Absolutely. That way parents know that we are giving them every opportunity, whether they're 100% of the time or 50% of the time, they get that opportunity.
That is correct. That is correct. And so they have this opportunity. If for any reason they are unsuccessful, then they test again in spring administration. And then they even have summer to test again if for any reason they're unsuccessful in spring administration. Yes, sir.
So just a principle more, if you can speak about what provisions have been made to provide additional support for the students who have not passed the test, like double blocking, etc.
So this year, coming in last year, a lot of our biggest complaint was our students didn't get the remediation for the STAR test. And so they take, their algebra, and then now they're in geometry and all of these different subjects. And so what we did, the English department, is I blocked all retesters that needed to pass English 1 or English 2. And so they're pure retesting classes. And so that way they're getting additional instruction in their English 3 and 4 class. In algebra, we have every student that needed a retest in our algebraic reasoning class. And so they're getting the strategies that they need there also. In U.S. history during Brahma time, we blocked it in for biology and U.S. history. So that way those students that did not pass during those Brahma times, the certified biology and U.S. history teachers. So they're getting the additional class in Brahma time. They're giving that instruction during that time. And so our teachers worked really hard on top of the before and after school tutoring that the teachers are providing. So we had a lot of time within our schedule for them to get the remediation during the day.
Wonderful. They, the ones that get the remediation, old school, are they signing in? I mean, is there documentation showing that they are showing up, teachers present, not so much a teacher present, no, the students showing up for that. So if they are not successful, we can show the parents, for example, these are the days we did it. These are some of the days he showed up, or these are all the days he showed up. I mean, something that shows a track record that these kids are being addressed and not maybe they came 4 or 5 times, but
It's an official class.
Yeah.
So attendance in that class, that period is an official class on their schedule.
okay, good.
So if they're absent, it's counted absent, just like any other day. And so that's what we did with the bereavement time. Now, the English is already built into their 3 and 4, but algebra is built in throughout the day, and biology and U.S. history are during the bereavement time. So they get a grade and they get their attendance every day.
Any other questions? Hearing none, we'll on item 5B, the LASSO Cycle 4 report can be found on pages 6 through 17. Ms. Flowers.
Good evening, Dr. Martinez, Board President, Louisa, and board members. Dr. Wells here, Assistant Superintendent, going to introduce Ms. Flowers and Dr. Arnold, Director of School Improvement, and they're going to review the last plan for you.
Good evening, Board President Ruiz, Dr. Martinez, members of the board. As Dr. Welch said, we're going to go over the Learning Acceleration Support Opportunities, which is LASSO, Cycle 4 grant opportunities that we recently applied for. So just a brief overview of what we can expect to receive in terms of support for these different LASSO grants that we applied for. The key areas of support that align with our goals and our incentive or our initiatives, high quality instructional materials and curriculum implementation, leadership development, coaching, professional learning, blended learning and strategic use of supplemental products, targeted improvement support for identified campuses, and our Pathways in Technology early college high school planning. So the first grant that we're going to go over is the Leadership and Instructional Foundations for Texas, or LIFT grant. The purpose of this is going to strengthen district and campus instructional systems over 3 years by supporting curriculum adoption, implementation, and instructional leadership development. One of the nice things about this is a 3-year grant. I will tell you the LASSO Cycle 3 that we're involved in right now, we're really starting to get things up and running off the ground and getting some traction. And I feel like, you know, if this were a 3-year grant instead of a 1-year grant, we'd really be able to make some moves. So I'm excited about this opportunity for sure. Some of the key supports, we would have to partner with a approved provider, which again, we currently do for the LASSO Cycle 3 that we're involved in right now. So the approved provider is going to come from a list that TEA has for us, and then we can move forward with whatever supports we feel that we need with that provider. Development of an observation and feedback systems, ongoing coaching, professional learning, instructional leadership coaching for our principals and all of our district leaders. In order to be eligible for this grant, we would have to commit to implementing Bluebonnet curriculum for both math and RLA. We do currently implement Bluebonnet for math. And as far as Bluebonnet for RLA, we're going to be considering that and obviously bringing that to the community's attention, your attention in the near future. Again, these are just grants that we've applied for. We haven't necessarily received them and certainly haven't accepted anything as of yet. As far as funding goes, we're looking at $855,000 to $4.5 million per award. The reason that these funds are so large, again, it is a 3-year grant. And it has, sorry, 1 second. It has combined 3 of the grants that that they have been separate in the past. So the 3 grants that it combines is the Strong Foundations, Texas Instructional Leadership, and Texas Lesson Study. Those are the 3 grants that are kind of combined into one for this lift. As far as whether or not we think we would get this grant, we are pretty high priority. So we're a priority 2 based on our current district status. So we are looking at a lot of different ways that we may be able to use this money already. The LIFT add-on is another grant that we can utilize for school improvement purposes. This one is only a 1-year grant because it's just supposed to support that initial push for everything that we're trying to implement as far as school improvement. The only schools that are eligible for this are ones that have that school improvement designation, which is all 5 of ours. So this is going to provide additional funding for support for that Title I School Improvement Identified Campus. We are going to have to continue that contract with an approved provider from TEA, so we would have additional outside support in order to implement this grant. Same requirements as far as Bluebonnet. We would have to commit to implementing Bluebonnet Math and RLA for the 26-27 school year. And it's going to give us a monitoring system for that Bluebonnet curriculum implementation.
Another grant that we have applied for is the Blended Learning Grant, and the eligible grades for the Blended Learning Grant are kinder through 8th grade. The purpose is to support the design and implementation of high-quality blended learning model to strengthen student outcomes in mathematics through targeted software use and professional development. Key supports include professional development for blended learning design, vendor partnership support, digital licenses, technology, supplies, and personnel for blended learning. The requirements and funding, we would need to implement adaptive software plus the Bluebonnet Math, participate in training, site visits, and data-driven planning. The estimated funding for this grant would be up to $450,000 per campus, and the duration would be for 3 years, beginning in March of 2026. Some of the programs that we know are approved with this grant are ST Math and CERN, which are vetted supplemental resources that support math instruction in the classroom. The next grant that we have applied for is the Additional Day School Year grant that Ms. Flowers will discuss.
So our Additional Day School Year, or ADSE, is going to support our district in designing high-quality extended year summer learning programs. It's going to give us strategic planning, professional development, and technical assistance in order to implement these additional days. Some of the key supports: guidance to design evidence-based ADSE programs. And what that looks like is math instruction, reading instruction, and then enrichment as well throughout the day. Technical assistance from a TEA-approved provider, and then support to create an ADSE-aligned calendar, which would have a base of 175 instructional days, and then additional ADSE days that are specific to this type of programming. So right now we work on a calendar that's 167 instructional days, so this would increase that to 175, I think, base. So again, just things that we've applied for and are looking into, haven't been awarded or accepted anything at this point. Requirements for funding: we must serve pre-K to 5, so this is an elementary school grant. We must operate on or adopt a 175-day instructional calendar for the 26-27 school year. And we must implement Bluebonnet for Math and RLA. And we would require a qualified district project manager for that. And again, this funding would go towards that. Estimated funding up to $200,000, and this would be for 2 to 3 years. So some of the things that we would like you to start thinking about in order to comply with some of these grant requirements that in total that we are looking at, we would need at least 181 instructional days, which would be that base of 175 and the added ADSE days. So some of the options that we would like to bring for your consideration: summer learning, which would be in a summer enrichment program. It would be roughly an additional 20 days of academics, reading, and math. At the end of the traditional school year, which for us would be about in June, for at least 3 hours daily by a certified teacher. Option 2 is an intersession calendar, We would offer targeted remediation for a specific group of students. We would probably have 2 separate weeks during the fall, 1 week during the spring. And this again would be for that targeted group of students based on STAR and WEA MAP scores. And then intercession will focus on reading and math instruction. And then option 3, we can do an earlier school start date. These are some of the things that other districts have implemented. Helps with some of that summer learning loss that we experience with our students. And then the days would be added just before the school year for a targeted group of students, making sure to focus on reading and math instruction. Option 4, we can do a combination of any of those 3. So again, just things to start thinking about and how we could implement these ADSE days. In addition to the grant, there's also formula funding for adding these days. That would be state funded days for implementing the ADSE model.
Next, we have the School Action Fund Restart Accelerated Campus Excellence Grant. And the campuses that we applied for are A.D. Harvey, N.M. Harrell, and J.R. Bendis. The purpose of the grant is to support struggling Title I campuses through a full ACE restart model, which relaunches campuses with highly effective leadership, at least 50% highly effective staff, and a redesigned academic program to improve student outcomes. Key supports include support to implement a new school model and academic program, funding for leader and teacher recruitment, resources for community engagement and transition planning, integration of Bluebonnet, research-based instructional strategies, and strategic master scheduling. The requirements and funding for the grant include campuses must be Title I school improvement identified, must implement Bluebonnet in reading language arts and math. Board members must participate in TEA approved training, and the estimated funding for this grant is up to $1.1 million per campus, and the duration of the grant extends between 2 to 3 years. Implementation of Bluebonnet reading language arts is contingent upon board approval, and Bluebonnet Math has already received board approval and is currently being implemented at this time. Supports the district's proposed reconstitution plan by funding the transition from 3 campuses to 2 redesigned schools, pre-K through 2nd and then 3rd through 5th, with strong leadership and highly effective staff. And it advances instructional improvement goals through resources that strengthen Tier 1 instruction, coaching, and recruitment of highly effective teachers aligned to our LASO and Effective Schools Framework priorities. It also improves student outcomes by creating more consistent and instructionally focused learning environments that accelerate achievement and long-term growth.
Now, the last grant that we applied for is the Pathways in Technology Early College High School, or P-TECH grant. The campus applying for that is H.M. King Early College High School. This grant is going to support the development of a high-fidelity P-TECH model that enables students to earn a high school diploma plus those industry-based certifications and/or an associate's degree through strong college and industry partnerships. It's going to support technical assistance to design and implement the P-TECH model. It's going to provide staff training in academic rigor, CTE pathways, and work-based learning. Increase and strengthen our formalized partnerships with institutes of higher education, IHEs, and industry partners. It's going to give us more career-focused supports, advising, mental health supports, academic services, and then those work-based learning opportunities, internships, job shadowing, and real-world projects with our industry partners. Requirements for funding: we must be a high school serving 9 through 12, must be new to the College Career Readiness School Model, CCRSM, with no prior P-TECH planning or designation. And we must identify the IHE or industry partners for all of our grade levels. Estimated funding up to $100,000. It's a 2-year grant. And then this does align pretty well with what we have already established as our plan moving forward. The high school has already applied for that planning year for the P-TECH. So this would support that planning that we've already discussed and approved. So I know that was a lot of information because we applied for this grant, so we know how much it is. So if there's any questions, we're here for you. So just let us know.
I have a comment on the additional days. That looks like it's just gonna be a year-round school calendar. Isn't that basically what that is?
So there is a model that's a year-round school year, which is more than 200 days. And at this point, we haven't really considered that. We're looking more around the 181 is kind of our baseline. And those ADZ days are for a targeted group of students. So even if you think of the model we have right now, we do have kids in school in June. And that's a targeted group of students. Now, this is a different model than what we have now, but it wouldn't necessarily be all year, no, sir.
Ms. Flowers, so the only commitment that we're looking at is the blue blotted curriculum, is that correct, on most of these? There's no money amount, no monetary amount match?
The P-TECH grant does have a match, but again, that is the one initiative that we've already agreed upon that we would move forward with anyway, and the high school did apply for that in November. So that is one that does have a match requirement. And then again, we should hear probably March on whether we are receiving any of these grants, and then at that point, we can make some determinations.
Thank you.
As far as technology in the district, are we set up for all of this? Or do we have to purchase more, or are we good where we're at, you know?
So the one grant that we could use for purchasing the technology would be that blended learning grant, because that is more geared towards those supplemental programs that are going to match well with our Bluebonnet program. So, but that grant does provide money specifically for technology. So if we needed to purchase more, we could.
Thank you.
The grants require an approved provider.
So TA will come out with a list of their approved providers, and we are allowed to interview them and get their sales pitches. So currently, and I'll make some comparisons. So we have our LASSO Cycle 3 implementation grant, and we partner with Carnegie Learning. They come on campus, they provide on-campus support, they provide PLC support, coaching for our Bluebonnet implementation. And then we also have our Strong Foundations Planning Grant, and we partner with Mo Casey for that. And we're developing a framework for our RLA curriculum.
How much of the grant funds do they?
I don't have the numbers for next year, but for this year, for example, 50% of the grant goes to the approved provider.
And so you've got the lift add-on. Would there be separate charges for the provider? It's got to be the same provider, so they're going to take.
Yes, they would take a piece of the lift grant and a piece of that lift add-on grant.
How disruptive is it to a district to change curriculums?
I think I see where you're getting. So our implementation of math has gone pretty well. So we have not used Amplify in the past, and Amplify has transitioned to Bluebonnet. So this would be for RLA. This certainly would be a transition, but if the curriculum is going to have, and I'll speak for the Bluebonnet math, right, because we are implementing that right now. The curriculum has everything the teachers need. So TEA is backing programs that are going to have everything the teachers need, from misconceptions before each topic and terms and vocabulary mapped out with graphics sometimes. It's going to have lesson plans already created, scope and sequence already mapped out. It has questions for facilitation. So if you're trying to make sure you're getting everything that you can out of your students, it has questions for you to ask them to make sure, hey, hit this point because this one's really important. Make sure you get a good answer for this. So backing these curriculum is what TEA is doing to support us. So, Bluebonnet Math, Bluebonnet Reading, they're going to have everything that the teachers need to support their students.
Who are we with on reading now? And
So right now, in the elementary school, we have McGraw-Hill Wonders, and at the secondary level, we have McGraw-Hill Study Sync.
whenever we transitioned to them, was Bluebonnet even considered?
No, so Bluebonnet was not available. Last year was the first year, if I'm not mistaken, that Bluebonnet was even a item.
In the considerations of these grants, we're applying for them, or even if they're awarded, if you've not yet accepted them, is there a basic analysis done in terms of, is this adding personnel that are going to remain past the grant? Are there going to be subsidiary costs when the grant ends? And kind of run into that in ESSER in a bit with, we've got some residual cost. If you're looking in terms of the extended calendar days, you take into consideration faculty, transportation, food services, additional janitorial, all of those kind of things. When you mean sort of basic dollar and cents analysis that's included with Dr. Pitts or the financial department comes involved in, the dollars look appealing. Do we actually look down to make sure that we're not taking a pig in a poke now or some cost down the road that it's going to be tough to absorb?
Yes, to answer your question, sir, really good question. So every time we get funded by the state or the federal government, right, in the form of grants, we have to be very strategic and judicious on what do we use that money for, right? Because one of the things that you mentioned with ESSER funding, a lot of districts created a lot of positions, right? When the funding disappeared, everybody was running ragged because how do we pay for all of these positions that we didn't anticipate or our budget cannot support? So part of the strategic planning that we are engaging in right now is to determine what are the best uses for the money that hopefully we will get from those grants, and determine if there are additional positions that need to be created, which there might be, right? Because the grant will provide us with that opportunity. Like you heard, there's one particular grant that is a 3-year grant, right? So we can hire a person for that particular position, and we specifically say it's grant funded. And so the person that takes that position understands that, yeah, I'm gonna get this position and or this additional stipends for funding, but it is grant funded. So the minute the grant runs out, the person will have to apply for other available positions because we don't guarantee them their position. So we just do that as a matter of human resources type contracts, right? That will address those. In terms of what you mentioned, the cost that we will have to assume, for example, during the summertime, we have to provide, the electricity and the additional support, custodial, et cetera. Basically, we pretty much always offer summer school, so we incur in those costs anyways. But there is a large portion of the ASTE grant that we will be able to use to put some of the funding into some of those areas, not all. Some of them we will still have to absorb, but we can certainly include the great majority of the funding that is related directly to instruction and instructional support personnel to be compensated from the grant.
I appreciate what you said about the person that might be hired or could be hired, knowing it's a grant funding, because we didn't do that here. And so that's part of our deficit. So that being upfront is being upfront and honest. It ends at this time. If there's a job you can apply for or not, then that's a job. So thank you for that.
And it goes the same as with the ACE Restart grant that we're applying. So we will be able through that grant to offer pretty substantial compensation to the principals, the teachers, the support staff from those schools. Just to give you an example, La Jolla ISD, which is a district in the valley, did implement the ACE Restart program. I believe this is their second year. And they pay, for example, their principals, right? It was $15,000 as a stipend. The assistant principals, $12,500. Teachers will get $10,000, and everybody else, the additional instructional staff, will get $7,500. And that's their model. Now, we're gonna, with your support, we're gonna present to you what we're recommending, and it will be your decision to approve one amount or another based on what we're getting from the grant to provide. But again, the same happens with the stipends. When the grant is over, those stipends will no longer be available for the staff. Yeah.
Tremendous amount of work, and I appreciate it. I'm sure the whole board does. Just understanding, just putting the presentation together to be able to explain, I'm sure was troubling enough, but thank you. Looks like some good things may be coming in the pipe.
If I may, I would like to thank the team, the curriculum and instruction team, including Ms. Hamill, Ms. Williams, Ms. Barbie Edsel. They worked really, really hard to put all of these grants together. It's an enormous amount of work and paperwork and data that needs to happen to support the submission of this grant. So thank you to the team. Great job.
Thank you very much.
Now I'm on item 5C, special education report, can be found on page 18. This is Gloria Hamill Garcia.
Superintendent Martinez, Board President Ruiz, again, I have the honor and pleasure of introducing two more members of my team to discuss the RDA, or Results Driven Accountability for School Year 2025. SPED Director Gloria Hamill Garcia and our Compliance Specialist Barbie Zell.
Thank you. Good evening, Board President Reese, Superintendent Martinez, and board members. Today, we're going to walk through the 2025 Results-Driven Accountability Determination Framework, known as RDA, and what it means to our district, for our district. I'll give you a clear overview of how TA calculates determination levels, which indicators matter the most, and what recent updates mean for us. This presentation is designed to help us understand our data story and plan next steps for improvement. Now, RDA stands for Results-Driven Accountability. This is TA's accountability system for emergent bilingual and other special populations. The other special populations include foster, homeless, and military. The emphasis is Sorry, I think I was clicking that. That's where we should be. Every district in the state of Texas receives an annual determination level that's based on these outcomes. Understanding how this system works is what is going to help us make data-driven and compliant decisions. What does RDA, why does RDA matter? RDA has real implications for our district. Our determination level drives what type of monitoring, intervention, and reporting we must complete. It also highlights the strengths and the weaknesses in our special education program, so we can adjust instruction, services, and compliance practices. Ultimately, RDA ensures that our students are receiving high-quality instruction and equitable services. There are 4 different determination levels. DL1 means that we meet or we met requirements. This is where every district wants to be. DL2 indicates that we need some assistance. A DL3 means that we need intervention, and a DL4 signals substantial intervention. Our district is currently level 4. Our goal right now is to understand the areas that are affecting our level and also ensure that we stay in compliance with improving our student outcomes. Now, TEA uses a combination of performance indicators and calculates performance levels that are also called PLs. These PLs get averaged into something called a PL mean. Then TEA uses the percentile cut points, 99th, 95th, and 80th percentiles, to assign each district a determination level. In short, our performance is compared to other districts in the state of Texas. These indicators up here are the special education indicators that factor into determination levels. They include special education representation, star performance and growth, graduation rates, dropout rates, early childhood outcomes, and federal results elements such as instructional setting and behavior and discipline removals. Understanding where we stand on each of these indicators is key to improving our determination level. Now, one of the major updates for 2025 is that discipline indicators have been removed from the DL calculations due to recent legislation. However, our district discipline metrics are still going to be reported. They just don't count toward our determination level. This is important because we need to monitor discipline trends closely, especially disproportionality. I also like to include that this is an area where we went from a 3 to a 2 this past year. But since it was removed, it didn't help us since it wasn't calculated in this year's DL calculation. What happens after a DL assignment? Well, once TEA assigns a determination level, there may be required actions. Some districts must complete a self-assessment. Others must create a targeted improvement plan. And districts with higher levels of need may require intervention actions. As a DL4, our district must develop a strategic support plan, and we must submit that report to TA by November the 19th. Well, December. We'll also have initial, mid-year, and end-of-the-year conferences with TA, as well as monthly check-in reporting meetings with TA. What I'd like to do now is turn it over to our compliance specialist, Ms. Zetzel, to talk about KISD special education RDA performance levels. She produces longitudinal report from 2021 to 2025.
Good evening. So this is a document that you have, the table there of the performance levels. I created this several years ago as a special education director. I've since retired, so I work part-time for the district as a compliance specialist. But I created this document because I think it's really important for our educators and our district leadership team to see that this is about specific numbers, that it looks better whenever you see DL4, but we're breaking it down to show you what that means, right? Not just, oh, it's a 4, oh, you got a PL3, or oh, you got a PL2. It really breaks it down to show you how far we were from getting the next better level, right? So if you look at our SPED STAR 3 through 8 passing rate, that's academic achievement falls under domain 1. And so these are your 3 indicators that have math, reading, science, social studies, which is all of your STAR performance. So if you look at 2025, you can see the trends as we went from 21 to 25. You see we've maintained 3s in math and reading. And then in science, we maintained a 3 as well. We went back to a 4 in social studies. If you look at the very last column there, what I've done is I've gone in and used the TEA cut points for each section to determine how many students away we were from the next PL. Does that make sense? So if you look at, I highlighted yellow there for social studies, if one more of our students had passed the social studies test, we would have been at PL3. That really helps teachers to see, hey, that's just one more student that needed to pass, correct? We know who those kids are. We've, Ms. Ward just talked about tracking that at the high school. So we know who those kiddos are. So that's why we want to do really intentional targeted instruction for those groups. And then you can see appeal 2 for math would have been 34 students, 22 in reading, and 16 in science. The year after exit, that's the year after exit from special education. So if we dismiss students from special ed, this whole section shows how they've done. What you'll see on STAR Test, what you'll see is NASA, which is not assigned special analysis, or a 1 essay is special analysis. And what that means is that for each of the groups and for each of the areas that they measure, you're looking for a minimum size requirement of at least 30. Okay, so in those areas, it was not assigned special analysis because we didn't meet the minimum size requirement. Okay. We did get a 1 essay in reading, and that was a special analysis because the other years we hadn't met the minimum size requirement. And you'll see science and social studies were not assigned, so there were not enough students in those groups. Our STAR end of course passing rate, we were a 3 in algebra, 0 RI, required improvement. So the system has a built-in improvement option in it. So when they do all the fancy calculations that they do to determine what your performance level is, if you've had improvement over a certain number of years, they take the numerator, the denominator, they figure out the formula, and because you've made improvements, you can get a required improvement score as your PL. So we have a 0 RI there. So we've made quite a bit of progress in biology over the last 5 years. U.S. history, one more student would have gotten us a performance level of 1, and in ELA, we would have 2 more students, we would have been a PL3 for that one. The next section is domain 2, which is your post-secondary readiness. That's your grad rate, graduation rate, and your annual dropout rate. And if you'll notice the asterisks there next to annual dropout rate, this is 2-year-old data. So it looks for the students in grades 7 through 12 that graduated with their cohort based on data. Okay, so it wasn't this past year's data, it's lagging data. And so if you'll see there, grad rate, we were a 1. We made improvements there. To be a 0, we would have had to have 4 more students graduate. And then our annual dropout rate, we were a 1. So we needed 3 fewer students on dropout rate. So that indicator goes backwards, right? Because you want more instead of less. I'm sorry, less instead of more. Then the last domain 3, disproportionate analysis, they're looking at your classroom rates, so your instructional arrangements for students, starting with indicator 6 all the way down to indicator 9. We're looking at our rates of where our kids are receiving services at. And then it looks at our disciplines, so how many removals we have. So indicator 15 is our SPED total disciplinary removal rate. Again, you'll see the asterisks there because it is lagging data. Again, it's based on 23-24 data based on the summer submission PEAM snapshot, PEAM submission. So if you look at our total disciplinary rates, as Ms. Hamel Garcia was saying, we did make improvements there. We went to a 2. And so we had fewer students that were being removed based on that 23-24 data. One other item that's included, and you do have a copy of our special education results-driven accountability, the report itself. We have the federally required elements that are in there. They'll be on the very last page of your report. Those are our state performance plan indicators. So that's indicator 11 and 12, which is our timely evaluations. So I track that in a spreadsheet and I work on that every single day. So every single day that I'm here, I work on that every day. I look and see where we are, what kids have been referred for special education evaluation to ensure that we evaluate them within our 45 school day timeline and that we have their ARD meeting within 30 calendar days from the date of that report. It also looks at indicator 13, which is transition, indicator 14, which is post-secondary, and those are our SPP indicators. It also looks at valid, reliable, and timely data, meaning I'm getting our submissions turned in on time. Status of uncorrected noncompliance, we are a 2 there, and that's because we're a year 2 corrected noncompliance. And then finally, the financial audits, and that's done kind of like the first ratings are as well. So I have great news. On our 2 there for status of uncorrected noncompliance, Ms. Hamel Garcia and I met with TEA today, and we have been approved on all of the last 100 folders of submission that I turned in over the past 2 years, and we are now no longer in uncorrected noncompliance.
And, you know, I've been here in this district just a little over 2 months, so I don't know how much credit I can take for that. So I'd like to take a moment to thank our team in the special ed department and also Ms. Etzel for that big accomplishment for Kingsville Independent School District. Definitely a time to celebrate. Okay.
Okay, so one of the things that we talked about is the correlation of our ADA-F accountability along with RDA. So you can see in the years that we were F rated, we were 4s. In the last year, we were a DL3 and we were a D. Okay, so there is a correlation there. I did want to note that under other special populations for this coming school year, we were a 3. So when our district leadership team meets next week to write our strategic support plan, we'll be looking at that other special populations. It was 3 through 8 math and graduation rate, dropout rate for our foster homeless. And so we'll be looking at those 2 areas, including those in our strategic support plan. So I wanted to make sure that I brought up other special populations, but you can see over time how the correlation is there.
For us right now, the biggest focuses will be improving the data accuracy, strengthening our instruction, and also using RDA results to guide continuous improvement. Every indicator tells part of our story, so the more accurate our data and the stronger our instruction, the better position we are to achieve or maintain a DL1. Therefore, I'd like to end our presentation with just talking a little bit about what our next steps are here in our district. We are spending time, our district leadership team is going to be developing a strategic support plan to capture our district key priority areas which align to the RDA domains. And they are to increase student outcomes, improve the quality of instruction, strengthen leadership and instructional capacity across all levels. And we also want to improve special education instruction, services compliance, and accountability. This plan, again, is due to TEA on Friday the 19th. Ongoing progress, monitoring of identified SSP strategies and data. And also, next steps will include participating in those scheduled meetings with TEA.
Does that need board approval? That's fine.
No, sir. No, sir, it doesn't. Thank you.
I'd just like to commend this group, because I've been on the board a couple of years now, and I don't think I've ever quite seen such detailed information. I mean, we would hear information, but not really understand what was being presented. So thank you all, because this is, definitely understandable, right, for somebody like me, a layman that doesn't know anything about the K through 12. So thank you so much.
So I'd like to ask a question, just if I could, for Ms. Party. Sorry, I don't know the last name. Okay. What is your schedule for KISD?
So it varies from week to week based on the needs of the district. So like this Friday, we have our evaluation team meeting, so I'll be here all day for that day.
Okay, so how do we get you more days here in our district? Because one day's not gonna do it. And what I'm saying is, because our diags, our sped ed department needs the assistance. Okay, and I don't know how, I know that with our teachers, our staff, Dr. Martinez's staff is going in and walking through. Do you do the walkthroughs through the sped ed programs? Are you sitting down with them, assisting the diags as they're functioning in their class? I think that's key, because one day it's not going to do it, and we're going to get. I mean, I'm excited about the results. Don't get me wrong, but we still need to do more and not be satisfied with just that.
So I try really hard to get her to come back, but that's another story. But to kind of answer the second part of your question, those walks, we have, and we will continue to include our special education departments, such as Claudia and Ms. Hamill Garcia in those walks, so that when we're looking at not only gen ed, but we're looking at the supports that are given to our special education students, and we're also having them work within our PLCs and our inclusion teachers to plan with our gen ed teachers, so that we're intertwining those supports into our regular tier 1 instruction.
Board member, to answer your question, why we couldn't have her more time is because of her retirement considerations. She's not about to work more time than she can give us. Otherwise, that would be done already.
I'm giving you all as much time as I can. This week I'll be here 3 days. So actually 4, that we keep my hours under. I can't work more than 92 hours a month, and I keep track of it, and Dr. Pitt stays on me to make sure that I'm taking care of that, keep track of it. I can lose my retirement if I work more days. So, but I do work in the background a lot with our diagnosticians and our speech therapists and our school psychologists, as well as contractors. Ms. Hamill Garcia does more of the instructional walks, but I work directly with them to ensure that they understand. They have legal questions, if they have placement questions, if they have any questions about timelines or anything to do with any of the 13 disabilities that are recognized in Texas. I work directly with them, and they'll tell you, just like I worked at the service center for 8 years, so I have lots of contacts in the region, and I answer questions all the time. I will never not take a phone call from them, even if I'm not in person here working, because that just helps me learn too.
I appreciate the transparency, and I've talked to Dr. Martinez many times about transparency, and we're getting the real story and not a candy coat story of what really happened. And that puts us where we need to be, or we know where we're at and where we need to be, because we have to be potatoes. I appreciate it.
And I'd just like to conclude, and thank you all for giving us this time and opportunity to present, but also to talk about the fact that the things that you've heard here with the RDA, as you can see, they are in line with the superintendent's priorities, and those are the same things and the reasons that we're looking at those particular grants, because they will support us in achieving the superintendent's priority, which again are the 8 priorities, which will help us get to where we all know our kids should be and this district can be. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, we now move on to item 5D, Can we do 5D and E together? In the next 4 minutes, Dr. Can you go get to the check register from October 2025, can you find pages 19 through 27, and also for September 2025, can you find pages 28 to 34 documents?
Thank you, Mr. Reese, Dr. Martinez, members of the board. Just going to point out a couple of things on the September check register. That first one, quarterly appraisal fees, that's something that all taxing entities do have to pay. We pay that 4 times a year. Workers' comp, we pay that every month, but that is, there's a one-time at the beginning where we pay excess premium, basically coverage if we have any overages. You'll see that the next month is quite a bit lower. We pay about $220,000 a year in workers' comp. Student tuition, that's how much for the whole year. It's almost a misnomer. We get free tuition through the FAST program, but we have to pay for fees and we have to pay for online subscriptions for textbooks as well too. That's how much it comes out through the year. Then if you look, there are several renewals. This is September, so renewal for stadium rental for the year. We pay $50,000 so that we can use that for our varsity and JV football games. You see all our instructional technology renewals as well on there too. And our renewal for our work order system as well. Any questions on the September check register before I go to October?
Real quick, I have one question.
Yes, sir.
Notice that there's a charge for pest control services for food service. Don't we have an employee that does that for the district?
We do have an employee, but there's certain things that they can do. They are certified to do the outside applications, but not the inside applications.
Okay, I see this food service. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Pitts,
Yes, sir.
I always see this name at the trainings we go to because they've got the best bubble gum and the best pins. Walsh Gallegos.
Yes, sir.
What do they do?
They
They're special ed.
So
The special ed attorneys? Why do we call them for? Like, give me an example.
well, two different scenarios. One is we have a $1,000 retainer for the year that allows us to call at any time to ask basic questions that we have on procedures or compliance, things like that. And then we do have legal issues that they assist us with as well too. And that's where the big costs come up. Like you see on there, it was $10,000 and change this year. So that was that. Obviously, I can't talk about that issue right now, but sometimes there are issues where they provide legal representation for us.
But was that just for the month of September?
So sometimes they are behind on their billing, but no, that wasn't just for the month of September, but that is just the last. I can get the billing period and what that is for and get that to the board because there's another one on October as well too. That is a large expenditure as well.
Next to it, like 10,000 for, say, September.
Okay.
Just so that we know, because I see it, it's just the August to September, and to me, it's a lot of money.
Yes, yes. I can get some more detail on this.
Excuse me. Director Garcia, can you please come to the podium? The question is about what do we use Walsh and Gallegos for? So if you can answer in a general form without giving specifics, that would be helpful.
We have a $1,000 fee that we pay every year for the school year. And what that allows me to do is to call those attorneys and ask them, speak to them over the phone and just ask them for guidance on anything that pertaining to our department. And that is at no cost other than the $1,000. What I have asked are those attorneys is that, I was very clear that we are in a $4.2 million deficit. And I expect for them to take care of me in this district when I call. If I, for any reason, overstep and they're going to start charging me for anything, then my expectations are that they let me know that that's happening at that moment with whatever it is that I'm asking. And so we have been, since I've been aboard on staff here in the district, we haven't been charged anything. What we also do is that we have Mr. Maddox, that is our attorney on the gen ed side, I guess, for lack of a better word. And there are times that I may call him and ask him some questions pertaining to special ed, because we can get him to handle some of those situations that may end up costing us somewhere else. So I appreciate having at least those options to make sure that we are keeping the costs down here in our district. However, there were just things being done differently since before I came aboard, and I'm hoping that we put systems in place right now that will remedy that, and we won't be seeing that anymore.
And you're right, Ms. Garcia. You just came aboard, so it's not something that this is on you. It's not it's on you thing. But I'd like Nick Maddox to be more involved in those calls, Mr. Maddox, if we can, just so that way we know where we can cut a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay, and if we have to use Ms. Barbie, her expertise can help us as well.
Right.
Because you see the expenses that we're.
Sure, absolutely. That's why I said I did take a look at that when coming on board, and I can assure you that you shouldn't be seeing that ever again.
Thank you.
Substantial.
Yeah.
I mean, I totally understand this was prior to you coming on board, but. Yeah, that's why I wanted Ms. Garcia to come to the podium and explain, because when she was hired, we had conversations about the expenses that we were incurring in terms of legal fees, and moving forward, we want to be very judicious with why do we call, is it necessary, how long do we stay in the call, those kinds of things, because it's very easy to engage in conversations that, are costing the district big bucks. So definitely Mr. Maddox has been really instrumental in helping us, and we appreciate him very much. And there are certain things that are very technical in nature that Ms. Garcia needs to contact the Washington Gallegos. They specialize in that particular field. But for the most part, we utilize Mr. Maddox as well. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the October check register, you see at the very top, $812,000 and change to Due West. That is the construction company working on the HMK drainage repairs. They are almost done with the small list of punch items, but there is still $220,000 outstanding there. They haven't billed us for that yet. If you look further down, we also have AGCM $16,000 for the project management for the drainage repairs. That is final. That is all that is owed to them for that particular issue. School bus, you see that we finally got the school bus in, working on getting the camera system together for that so that it can be operational. That was one of the large expenditures approved by the board over the summer. Our district software for student, staff, and finance. You see the annual renewal cost for that. Annual cost for data backup recovery, that is an annual cost as well. I did want to point out legal services for O'Hanlon. So I called them and went through all the expenditures with them, and I consulted with Mr. Maddox on this as well too, to make sure that all those expenditures were still supposed to be billed to us. $15,000 of that is for the superintendent search, and the balance of that is for, there was an ongoing lawsuit issue that was carried over in May and June by O'Hanlon, that they actually did fulfill those hours for. There is no more outstanding left on O'Hanlon after this.
So we won't see them on the check register anymore.
You won't see them on the check register anymore unless for some reason there is authorization that there's something that we cannot handle, or but right now we are allowed to retain 2 attorneys, but nobody has gone to them for any type of legal representation. We all go through O'Hanlon, the one exception being Walsh Gallegos for special education.
But everything's going through Maddox, right?
Everything's going through Maddox, yes.
Dr. Pitts, the school bus,
Yes,
brand new,
brand new.
was it fitted with the 3-point?
It has the 3-point seatbelts on, yes.
Any other questions from the board? Hearing none, thank you, Dr. Bitts. We now move on to item 6, new business. Item 6A, no action is needed, but just to kind of recap, the summary of training hours. Now, I know that in the board packet, there's one, but that actually was not 100% accurate. I do have the most up-to-date version, so I'm going to go ahead and read those out for the community just to kind of be aware. Martin Chapa overall, 81.25 hours in his tenure as board trustee on the board. Hours earned for December 24 through 25 is 34.75, and his status is completed the required hours. Brian Kufal overall has earned 201,500. Just kidding. Overall has earned 201.50 hours earned for 24-25. There is some lacking, some deficiencies. Has only earned 3 hours, and he'll be working on child abuse prevention, cybersecurity, evaluating and improving student outcomes and school safety in this upcoming year. Thank you, Brian. David Garcia overall 120.25 hours. And then hours earned for December 24-25 is 37.75, and he has completed the required number of hours. Joe Mireles, overall 117.75 hours. Hours earned for December 24 through December 2025 is 32.75 hours, and he has completed the required number of hours. Jacob Pettis, overall 71.50 hours. Hours earned for December 24 through December 2025 is 43.75 hours, and his status is completed the required hours. Joseph Ruiz overall 74 hours. Hours earned for December 24 through 2025 is 30.75 hours, and he is identified as completed the required hours. And then Ms. Delma Salinas overall has completed 111 hours. Hours earned for December 24 through 25 is 25.50 hours, and her status is completed the required number of hours. So thank you to all the board and all the training, because definitely we need it. This is, definitely good information and helps us do what we do as trustees. So thank you all. We now move on to item 6B, election of board officers. This item I brought up because I'd like to just kind of discuss this actually with legal, because I have a question before we actually come out in open session and then make this vote public. So we are going to go ahead and table item 6B and move into closed session. So we'll now go on to item 7, closed session. The board will enter into closed session in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.074 to deliberate and consider the following. Item 7A, consider and deliberate with legal counsel regarding legal and personnel matters. Item 7B, to discuss participation in multi-district litigation involving youth social media usage and related litigation, and entering into a contingency fee contract with Elin and Bonin PC and O'Hanlon, Demarath and Castillo PC to represent the district, Texas Government Code 55.071. No action will be taken until we return to open session. We are entering into closed session at 7:01 p.m. and take necessary action on matters the board may now discuss in open session, upon which action may be taken. We are returning to open session at 7:54 PM. Going back to item number 6B, election of board officers. We will take no action on that item. So the board remains intact as is. We now move on to item 8A, discussion and possible action regarding legal and personnel matters. Is there anything that we needed to discuss, Mr. Maddox?
No action needed, Mr. President.
So no action needed. Item 8B, consideration and adoption of resolution approving contingent fee legal contract, including findings needed for submission of contingent fee legal services agreement and request for expedited review by the Texas Attorney General. Do we have a motion to accept that recommendation? Motion made by Delma Salinas. Second made by Brian Kufal. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. There being no further action, do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Mr. President, we have one more. It's
sorry.
8C.
Oh, I'm sorry. 8C, consideration and adoption of contingent fee legal services agreement with Elin and Bonin PC and O'Hanlon and Demrath and Castillo PC. Is there a motion to accept that? I thought that's what we just did.
So, Mr. President, members of the Board of Trustees, the way that the agenda is worded is 8B is the adoption of a resolution determining that these services are necessary for the district. 8C is the adoption of a legal contract with these two law firms to fulfill the needs as declared in that resolution.
So motion made by Brian Kufal. Second made by David Garcia. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 6-0. There being no further action, do I hear a motion to adjourn? Made by Delma Salinas, second by Joe Mireles. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion, we are adjourning the regular board meeting at 7:57 PM.